Hi, thanks for joining me again as we prepare for the third meeting. I want to begin with the setting. As always, the setting is the third meeting. And as you look at my thoughts for balancing your meeting, I've suggested that you spend about 30 minutes on the icebreaker, 30 minutes on the study, and 25 minutes sharing in prayer, or that you balance those out quite a bit for this meeting. Chit chat, I said 15 minutes before, up to 5 minutes after. And the way I do this, I encourage people to come up to 15 minutes early. I tell them we'll leave the light on for you, and we'll be there 15 minutes early. We encourage the person bringing snack to bring it early, and this way people begin to arrive between 15 minutes early up to the time it starts, and they're a lot more inclined to actually be there by 7 p.m. then, and we're able to get the meeting started at 7. So often when we just say we're starting at 7, people will arrive just before. It'll take them a while to get situated, and quite often people will arrive after 7, because that's just the way it is. We tend to run a little late sometimes, and that can delay the start of the meeting by 10-15 minutes. So something to think about is asking people to arrive a few minutes early if they can. Let them know you'll be there up to 15 minutes early, because we really want to get started right at 7 o'clock. And this can save you some time in every meeting, and that extra 10 minutes can mean a lot. The reason I'm kind of balancing them out, what I'm trying to do really is on the back end, leave ample time for sharing and prayer. Leave a good 25 minutes for sharing and prayer. In the first couple of meetings, we probably spent quite a bit of time on the icebreaker, and that's been good and needed. Last week we spent a good amount of time on the study, and so people understand we're going to be looking at the scriptures and having time to discuss that and consider that. That's going to be a part of the meeting. What's probably been pushed aside a little bit is the sharing and prayer. And so I would suggest that you really try to keep your icebreaker to 30 minutes. You really keep the study to 30 minutes. You move it along to wrap it up, to get to that conclusion, so that you have time for sharing and prayer. In regard to the study, I've tried to keep the questions kind of open-ended, I guess, to generate good discussion, to help people open up and give their thoughts and opinions. The more they're engaged in the discussion, the more likely they're going to be molded by what is said and open to doing what God wants them to do in His Word. I would be careful not to let it slide into a discussion of how much the law applies and that kind of thing. I think Mike did a good job of discussing this, and there are various opinions and various degrees, and it could easily slide into a discussion that doesn't really get you where you want to go. And certainly where we want to go is Mike's 3 main points of we need to get started giving, we need to give proportionally, and certainly giving under grace beyond the tithe is the next thing. So we really want to focus on those things and not let it slide into a discussion of how much the law applies. I would really try hard to get to the conclusion questions. The number 4 under the conclusion, I would put it this way. I want to ask you a question now, at the end here, and I don't want you to answer this question right away. I just want you to think about it. And the question is this: why should you give your money to God and His work? Not someone else, but why should you give your money to God and His work? And I just want to give you a few moments just to think about that. And then I'd wait a good 30 seconds. And then I would say that what I'd like to ask you now is a little bit different question for you to share with us, if you'd like, and if you could. Why do you give your money to God and His work? Why do you give your money to God and His work. If you shared that with us, I think it would be very beneficial to hear that from one another. And so then I just let them share. Then I'd go on to question 5 here, the last question. People might want to answer that question. They might be ready to share that. And I would encourage them to do that. If you'd like to do that, we'd love to hear it. But I'm not going to ask anybody to do it if they don't want to do it. They might not. They might. If they don't, then just go on into the prayer and share time. I'm going to move forward to something to encourage you. Staying in 2 Corinthians, but moving back to chapter 1, verse 3 and 4. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves have received from God. I see 3 things in these 2 verses. Well, the first thing I want to say is that word comfort, people have said that could be translated as strengthen. Strengthen in your inner spirit. So you're comforted, but you're comforted in a way that you're made stronger. So the 3 things I see in there is, 1, that Christians are not immune from troubles. They're not immune from afflictions, from difficulties. And the fact that we need comfort and inner strengthening means that we're impacted by them. They just don't, hit us and fall off like water on a duck. We're impacted on them to the extent that we need strength. We need comfort. The second thing I see is, one of the reasons that we have troubles in life is so that we can see what God can do. These troubles, life is designed to have troubles so that we can see what God can do. And the second reason is so that we can comfort others when they have troubles. And what you see there as well is that we need each other. We need each other. Life wasn't designed for us to handle our troubles without God or without one another. And if we're to comfort one another, we have to know what each other's troubles are. And so, as it relates to growth group, I hope is apparent, we need to be able to share when we're having troubles or difficulties with one another, so that we can support, encourage, and pray for one another. And this brings me to my skill piece in its regard into the sharing and prayer section of the meeting. You may have heard me talk a little bit about this in our leadership meeting a month or 2 ago, but I'd like to just expand on it for a minute. It's the 3rd meeting. I'm going to review this with people because some people missed the first meeting, and most people need to be reminded of it. And it would involve 3 things. The first thing I would say is, I just want to remind, as we share prayer requests, I just want to remind everybody that all of these are confidential. That we've made a commitment to confidentiality in being in this group. So if I'm sharing with Tom, I'm not sharing with Tom's neighbor. I'm not sharing with Tom's mom. I'm just sharing with Tom. That's Tom, I'm sharing with you, but nobody else. And that's confidentiality, and that makes sense. The second thing is, we want to pray for one another primarily. Now, your aunt may have a sick cat, and that might be a legitimate prayer request. And there's other things that are legitimate, but you're the ones in the group. The scriptures call us to encourage one another and pray for one another, care for one another, and to comfort and strengthen one another. And you're here for 90 minutes, and all those other minutes in the week are out there, and we don't know anything about them. We don't know how it went. We don't know what you're struggling with, your temptations, whatever. And we're asking you to take the pieces that are important out of that week and bring them into the group. So we know you better, and we know how we can care for you. We know how we can comfort you and strengthen you and pray for you. So I would just remind people, please share with us what we can pray for you about. That's what we want to do here more than anything else. And then finally, I'd say one of the way I put it as far as thinking about what you could share is, what are you worrying about? I know it's not spiritual to worry, but we do that sometimes. And what are you worrying about? What do you have on your mind? If there's something that's always on your mind or you're worrying about, it's probably something that would be good to share with the group, to have them pray for you about. And then I'd have people share what they need prayer for. And then in regard to prayer, hopefully you'll have time for some conversational prayer where different people will pray for these requests. And I just, again, try to direct people to pray fairly short prayers. Don't pray for everybody in your prayer. Pray for one or two people, and let other people pray for others as well in that way. And then more people will have a chance to pray. So that's kind of how I do it. And the prayer and share time can be one of those most powerful parts of the group. And as the group goes on, it can be the most powerful part of the group as people really share what's going on in their lives and are supported in that. The other thing I would say is to remind people of the New Testament reading challenge and commitment, and tell them to keep at it. If they've gotten behind, do not stop, do not give up. Even if you can't read a bunch to catch up, better if you can, but if you can't, just keep going. All right, just keep going and keep doing it. We talked a little bit about the Servant Evangelism Project, talk a little bit about the details, and we'll learn some more details as we go forward in the group time. But there you have it. Some thoughts on meeting 3, on making it a great meeting, on the prayer and share time. I hope you do have a great meeting, and I'll pray to that end. Thanks.